What did your dad do in the Army?
Yeah, so he was an 82nd Airborne. He was a ground pounding infantry dude, and then a heavy mortarman, so like maybe the 120s, I believe. Yes, the 120s. And then on his last bit, he was on the howitzers, like a 105. So deaf. We're out here worried about shooting M4s with suppressors with ear pro. They were setting off cannons with no ear pro. He was deafer as he could be, man. Couldn't hear a thing. He had hearing aids and all that stuff, but he never wore them, which was always an advantage because I would be like, well, I told you. And he's like, I'm like, oh, I told you. I told you I was going to do that, Dad. And he's like, oh, I was like, you must not have heard me. Of course, now I might play that game a little bit myself with Melissa. I'm like completely deaf in my right ear. I'm supposed to wear a hearing aid in my left and whatever. So I always say, I didn't hear you say that. And she's just like.
So was that your motivation to go into the military? Or?
Man, yeah, partly, but also, I can trace it back to the fact that he let me watch Rambo: First Blood when I was like 9. Running around the mountains, freaking running from these mean old police guys who were mean to veterans, It was like, man, this dude is awesome. And then, the Colonel spiel about Green Berets being real badasses and all that. That had a lot to do with it, frankly, which sounds kind of funny because I will catch myself sometimes saying, well, part of our, this generation watched a couple of cool movies and decided they wanted to be SEALs or Rangers or whatever. And I think back, I'm like, wait a minute. That was part of the reason why I did it too, So I can't really beat up on the guys for that, It's like, but that was a huge part of my motivation between the fact that, he did it, and then that movie. But I also, I feel like, hunting and war is a lot of hunting. If you look at it like that, I just feel like it's part of my nature, part of my genetics, whatever you want to call it. Like I am, I don't want to say, for the sake of sounding like some crazy psychopath, like that I wanted war, but, before the war started, that was part of the thing, man. Warriors wanted to go to war. Yeah. We all hear about, the Ranger prayers and that kind of stuff where, you pray to the gods of war for, the opportunity to test yourself in combat and all that stuff. And I never really got into anything like that, but I think it's part of it. I think there are just simply some people are genetically cut out for certain types of work or whatever. And I was drawn to it. And then, really, when I joined the military, I couldn't afford college. Dad was trying to, he was still really trying to recover from my mom's death, man. That poor guy. I watched him for 2 years come home after work, sit in his recliner, in his chair, whatever, and stare at a TV that wasn't on. I would come in at 11, 12 at night on a school night. He lost control. And he didn't have the energy, I was just doing whatever I wanted and staying out late and misbehaving. And I would come in and he'd still be sitting in that recliner. Get up the next morning, brush his teeth, go to work. He was lost. He went from 205 pound dude to 170 pounds, not eating, just morning. And so yeah, man, freaking, he wanted me to go to college, so I tried. And I went to NC State, and I say that I was enrolled there. I didn't really attend class. Got there and there was, man, there was like 10, maybe 30 attractive girls in Pamlico County. Now I'm at NC State University, and there are so many distractions everywhere. You want me to go to class? 8 o'clock in the morning? I got stuff to do, man. Girls to chase and stuff. So college just wasn't working out, man. Dad was trying to pay, and help us with college funding and all that. At this point, my older sister's looking at medical school, and I was like, you can't afford it. There's no way. So I withdrew and joined the Army. So my sisters got to finish their college and all that kind of stuff. I fully intended on going back. Oddly enough, I wanted to be a doctor, and my sister became one. And she actually quit practicing and has become more. She's in the business side of biotech world now, and she's got a master's in business and all kinds of stuff, which is weird. She went to become a doctor, and then ultimately, before she became a business side, I was the business guy. And that's definitely a genetic pass down. My dad was a businessman, an entrepreneur, always hustling. Always into something, and was successful at everything he ever did because he was pretty methodical, but also worked really hard. So, yeah, man, I withdrew from college like my second semester on like a Tuesday and signed all the paperwork, went home. NC State to the house was about 3 hours. Got home, he wasn't there. I was like, shit, threw some running shoes on and go for a run. Sure enough, ran into him. He's like, what are you doing here? Like he knew something was up. You know what I mean? He's like, what now? Type of thing, And my stepmother, he remarried to an amazing woman. She turned out to be one of my best friends. Sadly, she died of cancer.
Oh man,
man, my dad just took it in the gut, But she was awesome, and so I went up to his truck, and he's like, "What in the are you doing home?" Like he just knew. And I was like, I enlisted in the Army. And he's like, you what? And I'll never forget, Carol, my stepmother, she just reached over and put her hand on his shoulder and she said, let's go on home. And when he gets here, we'll talk about it. Let's see what he has to say. And he just went, all right, I'll see you at the house.